Welcome to this episode, called The Whispering Walls. It's a horror story. My name is Mr. Ben. Let's begin. The invitation. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, its edges frayed as if it had been clutched by anxious hands. Clara Henshaw, a junior editor at a struggling literary magazine, found it tucked between bills and junk mail in her cramped Brooklyn apartment. The envelope was heavy, made of thick, creamy paper that smelled faintly of damp earth and wax. Her name was scrawled in elegant, looping cursive, but there was no return address. Only a wax seal stamped with an unfamiliar crest. A coiled serpent swallowing its own tail. Inside was an invitation, written in the same meticulous hand. Clara Henshaw, you are cordially invited to an exclusive retreat at Blackthorn Manor, a historic estate in the Adirondack Mountains. Join a select group of artists, writers, and thinkers for a week of inspiration and collaboration. All expenses paid. Departure October 13th. RSVP by October 10th. A phone number was provided, nothing else. Clara frowned, turning the paper over. No mention of who was hosting, no details about the select group. It was October 8th, giving her 2 days to decide. Her first instinct was to toss it, probably a scam, she thought, or some cultish pitch. But something about the letter's weight, texture, held her attention. She Googled Blackthorn Manor. The results were sparse. A few archived articles mentioned a 19th century estate built by an eccentric industrialist, Alaric Blackthorn, who vanished under mysterious circumstances in 1897. The manor had been abandoned for decades, its history tangled in rumors of hauntings and strange experiments. A single, grainy photo showed a sprawling Gothic structure, its towers clawing at a storm-heavy sky. The most recent mention was a 2018 real estate listing noting its purchase by an anonymous buyer. Nothing about retreats or events. Clara's life was a treadmill of deadlines, rejections, and a dwindling bank account. A free retreat in a creepy old mansion sounded like a risk, but also a chance to escape the grind. She called the number. A woman's voice, smooth and clipped, answered immediately. Miss Henshaw, we've been expecting your call. Will you be joining us? Clara hesitated. Who's hostess? What's the catch? No catch, the woman said, her tone almost too polished. The benefactor wishes to remain anonymous, but is passionate about fostering creativity. You were chosen for your potential. Everything is arranged transport, lodging, meals. You need only bring your talent. It was absurd, but Clara's curiosity won out. Fine, I'm in. Excellent. A car will arrive at 8 a.m. on the 13th. Pack for a week and leave distractions behind. The manor has no Wi-Fi or cell service. The line went dead before Clara could ask more. The arrival. The drive to Blackthorn Manor took 6 hours, winding through dense forests that seemed to swallow the sunlight. The driver, a silent man in a black suit, didn't speak once, not even when Clara tried to make small talk. She was alone in the car, her duffel bag on the seat beside her, the invitation tucked inside like a talisman. The manor loomed into view as dusk fell, its silhouette jagged against the bruised purple sky. Ivy clung to its stone walls, and the windows, tall, arched, and dark, watched like unblinking eyes. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and something metallic, like rust. Clara was greeted at the entrance by a woman in her 50s, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun. She introduced herself as Miss Vey, the estate's caretaker. Her smile was thin, her eyes sharp. "Welcome, Miss Henshaw. You're the last to arrive." Inside, the manor was a labyrinth of high ceilings, polished wood, and flickering gas lamps. Portraits lined the walls, their subjects' eyes seeming to follow Clara as she was led to a grand dining room. 5 others were already seated around a long oak table: a painter named Leo, a poet called Mira, a composer named Elias, a novelist named Victor, and a sculptor named Grace. They were all in their late 20s or early 30s, their faces a mix of excitement and unease. Dinner was lavish: roast pheasant, red wine, candied figs, but the conversation was stilted. Miss Vey stood at the head of the table, explaining the rules: no phones, no leaving the grounds, and daily workshops in the manor's library. "The walls here have stories," she said, her voice dropping. "Listen closely, and they'll inspire you." Clara noticed the others exchanging glances. Leo, a wiry man with paint-stained fingers, leaned toward her. "Did you hear it last night?" he whispered. "I just got here," Clara said, confused. He paled. "Right, never mind." The first night. Clara's room was on the 3rd floor, a cavernous space with a 4-poster bed and a fireplace that hadn't been lit in years. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, its pattern a swirl of vines and roses that seemed to shift in the candlelight. She unpacked, trying to shake the unease creeping up her spine. As she lay in bed, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the old house. Then she heard it, a faint whisper, like wind through dry leaves. It came from the wall behind her headboard. She sat up, heart pounding, and pressed her ear to the wallpaper. Clara. Her name, spoken in a voice that wasn't human, too low, too layered, like a chorus of murmurs. She yanked her hand away, her breath catching. The sound stopped. She waited, frozen, but it didn't return. Eventually, exhaustion pulled her into a fitful sleep. The workshops. The next morning, the group gathered in the library, a vast room lined with shelves that stretched to the ceiling. The air smelled of old paper and mildew. Miss Vey handed out notebooks and pens, instructing them to write, paint, or compose based on what the manor told them. "The walls are alive with history," she said. "Let them guide you." Clara tried to focus, but her mind kept returning to the whisper. She glanced at the others. Mira was scribbling furiously, her eyes distant. Leo's canvas was a chaos of red and black slashes. Elias hummed a discordant melody, his fingers twitching. Victor stared at his blank page, sweat beading on his forehead. Grace chipped at a block of clay, her movements jerky. By noon, Clara had written a single line: "The walls know my name." She couldn't shake the feeling that the manor was watching her, its presence pressing against her skin. That night, the whispers returned, louder this time. "Clara, stay." They came from every wall, a cacophony of voices overlapping, some pleading, some angry. She stumbled out of bed, fumbling for the candle, but it wouldn't light. The darkness felt alive, thick with intent. She ran to the hallway, banging on Leo's door. He opened it, his face ashen. "You heard it too," he said, not a question. "What is this place?" Clara demanded. "I don't know," he whispered, "but last night I painted things I've never seen before. Faces, hands. They weren't mine." The discovery. The next day, Clara confronted Miss Vey. "What's going on here?" "The walls, they're talking." Miss Vey's smile didn't waver. "Imagination is powerful, Miss Henshaw. The manor amplifies it." "That's not imagination," Clara snapped. "It's real." Miss Vey's eyes narrowed. "Be careful what you seek. Some truths are better left buried." Clara didn't trust her. That afternoon, while the others were in the library, she slipped away to explore. The manor was a maze of locked doors and dusty corridors. But she found a staircase leading to the basement. The air grew colder as she descended, the walls slick with moisture. At the bottom was a heavy iron door, its surface etched with the same serpent crest from the invitation. It was unlocked. Inside was a circular chamber, its walls covered in strange symbols that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. In the center was a stone pedestal, and on it, a leather-bound book. Clara opened it. The pages were filled with names, dates, and notes in different hands. Some entries were recent, others centuries old. One caught her eye. Alaric Blackthorne, 1897. The walls accepted his offering. Below it, a list of names, including hers and the other guests. Beside each was a word: incomplete. She slammed the book shut, her heart racing. The whispers started again, louder, more insistent. "Clara, give." They weren't coming from the walls. Now they were inside her head. The descent. Clara ran back to the library, where the others were still working. She told them what she'd found, her voice shaking. Mira dropped her pen, her face pale. "I've been writing poems about death," she said. "They're not mine. It's like something's using me." Elias nodded. "My music, it's not music. It screams." Victor, the novelist, hadn't spoken all day. Now he stood, his eyes wild. "I wrote a chapter about us dying here. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stop." Grace clutched her clay figure, a grotesque thing with too many limbs. "This isn't what I planned to make." Leo grabbed Clara's arm. "We need to leave, now." They tried the front door, but it was locked. The windows wouldn't budge, their glass unnaturally cold. Miss Vey appeared, her expression unreadable. "You can't leave," she said. "The manor isn't finished with you." "What does it want?" Clara demanded. Miss Vey's smile was gone. "Your art, your soul. The walls feed on creation, and they're hungry." The ritual. That night, the group barricaded themselves in the library, desperate to find a way out. Clara pored over the book from the basement, its pages brittle and stained. It described a ritual Alaric Blackthorne had performed, binding his soul to the manor to gain immortality. The walls, infused with his will, craved the energy of artists, painters, writers, musicians trapping their creations and their lives. "We're fuel," Clara realized. It's using our work to keep itself alive. Mira found a passage about breaking the cycle. A sacrifice of the offering's essence could weaken the manor's hold. But the book was vague, and time was running out. The whispers were constant now, a deafening roar in their minds. Give, give, give. Victor started screaming, clawing at his face. It's in me, he shouted, before collapsing, his eyes blank. Grace tried to revive him, but he was gone, his notebook filled with pages of incomprehensible scribbles. The escape. They decided to burn the book, hoping to disrupt the manor's power. Leo and Elias gathered candles, while Clara and Mira searched for matches. Grace stayed with Victor's body, sobbing. The whispers grew frantic, the walls trembling as if in pain. They set the book alight in the library's fireplace, the flames casting shadows that twisted into faces. The manor groaned, a deep, guttural sound that shook the floor. The walls bled dark, viscous liquid seeping from the cracks. Miss Vey appeared, her face contorted with rage. You fools, she screamed. You'll destroy everything. She lunged at Clara, but Leo tackled her, pinning her to the ground. Go, he yelled. Clara, Mira, and Elias ran, the manor's halls warping around them, doors vanishing, walls closing in. Grace stayed behind, too broken to move. They reached the front door, now inexplicably open. Outside, the forest was silent, the air cold. They stumbled into the night. The aftermath. Clara, Mira, and Elias made it to a highway where a trucker picked them up. They didn't speak of Blackthorn Manor, not to the driver, not to each other. The whispers had stopped, but Clara felt them lingering, like a shadow in her mind. Back in Brooklyn, she tried to resume her life, but her writing was gone. Every word felt hollow, every story dead. She burned her notebooks, afraid of what they might summon. Mira disappeared a month later. Elias was found dead in his apartment, his hands stained with ink, a half-finished score beside him. Clara stopped answering her phone, stopped leaving her apartment. The walls of her building were silent, but she couldn't trust them. One night, she woke to a familiar sound, a whisper, faint but unmistakable. Clara. She screamed, tearing at the wallpaper, but it was just plaster underneath. The invitation, which she'd kept, was gone from her desk. In its place was a single word, written in her own hand, incomplete. Epilogue. Blackthorn Manor still stands, its walls waiting. Every few years, new invitations go out, the serpent crest gleaming under candlelight. The manor is patient. It always finds its artists. And the walls never stop whispering.